Dead Space 2 takes place 3 years after the events of the first Dead Space. Protagonist is still Isaac Clarke. Isaac Clarke is a combination of Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke, so if you didn't know that, there's your trivia for the day. And it now takes place on the Sprawl. So the Ishimura was decommissioned after the events of the first game because the necromorphs took over everything. And you're on the Sprawl. The Sprawl is a space station orbiting Saturn's moon Titan, and it's a very cool place because it's very diverse. I'll get into that part later. With the story, Isaac talks, so that's interesting, and it makes the game a lot more compelling. The story is, instead of just kind of being a victim of kind of like Deus Ex Machina, where everyone's like, here, go here, go here. You're kind of more in charge of your actions this time around. It's not just like you're helpless and you're trying to get off. You're actually trying to do stuff. So the story is a lot better this time around, in my opinion, because it has more driving factors instead of just, oh, go here, fix this. Oh, go here, fix this. Oh, now we found this problem. So, good stuff. Story, in my opinion, 8 out of 10. For survival horror, it's very, very solid, cohesive. It certainly propels it. And without spilling too much details, there are events from the first game that haunt you and pervade throughout the Dead Space 2, and it's very, very cool. The horror element, totally there. Story gets an 8 out of 10. So, gameplay-wise, top-notch. I mean, for survival, actually, for any bloody third-person shooter, this game has very, very solid gameplay elements. Stasis has always worked, and works. You'll have to concede a bit between the first game and the second game. With the first game, I played through on like a normal difficulty, but then I also had the Obsidian suit that was exclusive to PlayStation 3. It was like a free download, and it made everything so much easier. So I guess that kind of... the Dead Space 1 was terrifying, but Dead Space 2, I did not get that concession. Dead Space 2, I played through the first time on Zealot difficulty, because I was, I'm a trophy whore of sorts, and that was one surefire way of getting a gold trophy. And so that not only made it harder, but I also play through at a slower pace. I kind of take a little bit more strategy with the Dead Space franchise, because I'm terrified of it, and I'm going through, rounding every corner, at the seat of my bloody pants. The gameplay is also... It's cooler because you get more of a diversity of gameplay environments. So, as you're going throughout, each level has its own distinct feel, and then you go back through some places later in the game, and they feel that much more worn because of the necromorph invasion. And it's also, there are more like Hollywood style set pieces akin to Uncharted. Because of Uncharted 2, you definitely have noticed I've noticed a push for more Hollywood style set pieces in video games. Mass Effect 2 had them. Dead Space 2 certainly has them. Just those kind of like big, edgier seat style. It's good stuff. And they actually, for survival horror game, they work. They make the gameplay that much cooler when you're in a zero-G segment, flying around. Zero-G is so much better this time around. I congratulate Visceral Games on their implementation of that. There are also parts when you're going to just be flying through the air, dodging stuff as you're trying to get from point A to point B. Cool set pieces. So gameplay gets a 10 out of 10. It is the basis for survival horror. If you want to make a game, you don't feel too helpless, but at the same time, there is that pervading sense of dread, and it works very well. 10 out of 10. It's as moody as the first game. There's always this sense of dread that I just talked about. And the graphics are bloody gorgeous. You will notice it within the first 5 minutes of the game. The animations are much more fluid. The faces, everything seems... It's still a bit in the uncanny valley, but they've moved away from it a bit, gotten better motion capture with the second game. Um, and in Dead Space 2, just the fact that Isaac talks and you feel more of a connection to him because of that, um, it's it certainly makes the presentation just that much more sound. So I gave presentation a 10 out of 10. It is again, for a survival horror game, you have to take genre into consideration when you're doing a review. The best one I've seen by far. So there you go, 10 out of 10. This franchise gets the most love for sound, because and it's 10 out of 10 right off the bat. In a horror movie, the one thing that's going to get you, that sense of the unknown, that sense of what's coming next, and just that, keeping you on the edge of your seat, white knuckle kind of terror is sound. And the Visceral staff nailed it on the head again with the second game. There's less of the ambient sound because I guess there's just less of the areas of the sprawl that kind of contribute to that, and also there are less spaces, segments where you're out in space where you have so much to worry about. I liked in the first game where you were out in space and it was terrifying because there would be multiple enemies at you and you would just not know where they were coming from until you got hit by one. In the second game, that's less of that, but the overall sound works. It draws a sense of dread, like I've said before. The score is sci-fi horror done at Skywalker Ranch by the orchestra there, and it's oh man, think Event Horizon, think Alien, that kind of epic kind of grabbing you, a lot of strings, same from the first game, but a little bit more developed for this game. And the voiceovers are really top notch. Strauss had a strong input. Isaac Clarke was a bit more everyman, but the supporting cast definitely nails their kind of characters that you need from it. It was, Tideman's very well done. Ellie's very well done. Your girlfriend is very well done. All the elements are there. So sound 10 out of 10. For Rat, replayability, accessibility, trophies. Replayability wise, there is a New Game Plus mode, which is better than the first game because in the first game you were stuck with the difficulty that you started. So if you started on normal difficulty, then when you did New Game Plus, had to be normal difficulty. In this game, I tried out Zealot, and I've restarted a New Game Plus with casual mode. Don't judge me. Because, there's just that much better to kind of experience the world. I didn't get that chance. Well, I had the chance because I was going through slowly, but New Game Plus and Hardcore, which is 2 words because they're unique. Hardcore is a terrifying concept. You get 3 saves, so there's replayability I can't imagine. Accessibility. Casual mode, which is introduced for this game because they want to have more of an audience. Dead Space 2, or excuse me, the first Dead Space didn't sell as well as they hoped, but it did get a good following. Dead Space 2 has been selling like gangbusters apparently, so they are, and the casual difficulty definitely allows new people to come in. They also have a previously on Dead Space segment, and if you watched any of the movies, played Dead Space Ignition, it draws people into the world. So accessibility is good. The one thing that's going to drop this category down a bit is the hidden trophies and the trophies in general. Trophies are good, and trophies are amazing. One thing that you'll notice is the chapter names have been gone, so when you get a trophy, it's not necessarily going to be that you beat the chapter, it's going to be like a certain set piece in that chapter that you beat. But those are all hidden trophies, and they should be. You shouldn't necessarily know what the story is. There are other trophies that are not hidden trophies. That it's like, hey, Bouncing Betty. It's take a spore from these exploder guys and kill it with its own spore using kinesis, and that's good, and that's fine. That's a nice little try to see if you can do this. style trophy. It's not, you know, too much out of the way, out of the norm from what you would normally do. The hidden trophies, though, in game, like in the story, should be unlocked once the game is done. On New Game Plus, it should tell you what those hidden trophies are, or at least give you, every developer should do this. Once a person has beaten the game once, any hidden trophies that they still haven't gotten, in a trophy section in the options of like the pause menu, should give a hint as to how to get that hidden trophy. Not doing it is kind of lacking, taking away from the experience for the player, because they want to get that, they want to get the most out of your game. Give them hints for crying out loud. So it gets a 9 out of 10 because everything else is top notch. But yeah, developers, take note. Just go and after the game is done once, give hints as to what the hidden trophies are, because they've already played through the bloody game, so they know, you know, what the storyline is. It's no longer a hidden trophy. It's like a, oh, what did I not do that they wanted me to do? The books in this game are all related to kinesis. There's nothing gameplay breaking about it. There's nothing that I, you know, walked into a wall accidentally, or, you know, said, oh, maybe the clip. There's a bit of blocking, I guess, as it were, border, like erroneous border placement, because when you're trying to use kinesis over a fence, it's like the angle of your right arm for kinesis, left arm, excuse me. And it makes it a little bit difficult to try to, like, if something is below, you know, on a lower tier, and you have to like go over a fence in order to grab this thing with kinesis, it's not the easiest. But further with kinesis is that stuff will disappear, and this is going to drag down this category because of it. When you grab a necromorph and you kill them in such a way that they like got wedged between like a crate and something else, and you grab it with kinesis and you're trying to like bring it over so you can maybe take one of its blade dealies, it could very well disappear because it'll stay there, realize that it can't be, you know, taken easily, and just kind of disappear without explanation for it. And it's stupid because if, you know, the guy disappears, you can't stomp on him and get whatever loot he had with him. Further, there was one part that I noticed in particular, but it happens throughout the game. When you're trying to take a kinesis object like a skewer from one section to another section, sometimes they don't want you to do that, and it'll be like as soon as it gets to that new section, you'll just automatically drop it. You've had it in kinesis, and it just automatically drops. And this is not like going from one level to the next. This is like going to one segment of a single level, and this is within a room. Even this happened, where it's like I was trying to take a skewer from one area, I went down a ramp, and then that new area that had a necromorph right there, they were like, oh, we don't want you to have this, so it just made it disappear. That's not cool. Bugs, you're going to get a 7 out of 10 because of that. It drives me insane. This is like relatively, it's not as thought out. There could be better ways of programming that in. 7 out of 10. Game is epic. Isaac Clarke's story in the second game is a solid continuation of the first game. What that first game established, everything was kind of everything in the way of gameplay mechanics built on what was established in the first game. The story is compelling. The mood that it puts you in, I mean, this is more terrifying than a lot of horror movies, simply because you are there, you are doing all this stuff, and the homages that it pays to a lot of horror movies in inspiration are all there. Dead Space gets a 9 out of 10 overall, and I strongly recommend it, even if you're not a fan of survival horror, such as myself. Dead Space is worth it for the story, and worth it for, I mean, it's easy to get into with casual difficulty. Dead Space Ignition is an interesting backstory. I haven't seen Dead Space Aftermath yet, but I really want to. So yes, Dead Space 2, 9 out of 10. And further, if you guys want me to do a video review on Dead Space Extraction, which I have, and I've been playing through, I'm like halfway through it, I can get that to you by the end of the week. Just say it in the comments, post a video response, whatever. Follow me on Twitter. It's at MRL Comedy. So the letter MRL Comedy. And then it's Maximilian Robert Lockwood Comedy, which is my fan page on Facebook. So take it away. I owe you guys another video review because of the 2-week hiatus that this took. So I'll come up with that at some point. I'll do 2 in a week again. Yeah. Take care of yourselves. Ciao.